Okay, hello everyone and welcome. I'm Jenny Obi of highendexpert.com. And if you're here on this call live, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and or night and postponing things and whatever so that you could be here live. I'm so excited about that. And if you're watching on the replay, welcome as well. And please comment if you are just letting someone in there. Please comment if you're watching on the replay so we know that you watched. Okay, so most of you are here because you've been with me for the past couple of weeks in the Captivating Content Facebook group, where we're really looking at how to get the flywheel turning very quickly on our content by utilizing the algorithm and turning our Facebook profile into basically a lead generating machine, right? So that's what we've been working on. And I decided, as an extra bonus, just because everyone was participating and there were so many questions and I was just really enjoying it, I just decided to extend this week a little bit longer. So two important announcements. The first one is that the last day to submit any homework is on Wednesday. Okay, so that'll give me a couple days to finish up. If you like are last minute and put it in on Wednesday, then I'll have a couple of days to look at it. And then basically what will happen is I will close the pop-up group permanently on Friday, the 7th of October. So Wednesday to get your homework in. Friday is the last day the group will be open. So if you want to go to that Google Doc and binge watch the trainings one more time, I'll be taking them down from YouTube and taking the Google Doc away, whatever, because I will probably use those in like a paid program or something like that, right? So it's your chance to watch them free one last time. So you do have kind of all of this week, so that's good. And then let's see, the other thing is I have started a new fresh home base group that will be my like regular group that I'll keep open year round. Most of you know, many of you have been in my pop-ups before. I do these 3 or 4 times a year where I do the super intense training. And then the rest of the time I have like a regular group. And so what I am doing now is I have a fresh group called the Organic High-End Expert. And most if you have a link to that. If not, I will be popping it in the Captivating Content pop-up group before I close it, or I can put that link in the chat later if you want to join. So I would love to have you there with me year round. It would be very cool. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do today. I'm going to just very quickly, for those who don't know me and who are new to the High-End Expert and to Jenny Obi and all of my stuff that I've been doing for the past few years, just 3 quick things about me that you should know. The first thing is that for almost 20 years now, I've been a conversion copywriter. So I was a teacher, high school English, literature, like Brit Lit, and philosophy, and master writing teacher for a lot of years. And then I was an executive at a nonprofit, done a lot of things, have a master's in counseling. But I always had a side hustle for copywriting and helping other people. I would love to, all my friends that have businesses, I was always saying, here's how you can market that better. So I eventually became a copywriter and started doing that on the side. So I have a lot of experience in copywriting. Before that, I was a master teacher of writing, as I mentioned, which means I taught other teachers how to teach. And then I decided like, ooh, I could make a living doing this and do it on my own terms. So thus the copywriting thing was born. And the final thing you need to know about me is that I am highly intuitive, and therefore and very empathic. And so I take on a lot of, I'm very sensitive to others, highly sensitive person. I didn't even know what that was until a couple of years ago when I had a client who works with them. And I was like, oh, that's me. So because of that, I need to keep things very simple. And that's what I help my other clients do. You don't have to be a highly sensitive person or an empath or some, to work with me. But if you like to keep things simple and you like your brain is always going in a million directions and you're busy in life or whatever, and you want to keep things simple, you might want to follow some of my advice because I've learned the hard way how to keep things simple and why I really have to in my life. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share my screen here and I have some notes. And today we are just going to dive into high ticket offer creation, like how to package it, price it, position it, all of that. And I'm going to go very deep into as much as I can pack in this 90-minute seminar. And so there's a lot. I would recommend you take notes. I will not be sharing all these notes in the pop-up group. Okay, there's just too many and it's just too cluttered. But fair warning, if you've been in the pop-up group, you know that I do have an offer that I want to share with you to continue working with me at the end of this pop-up group. And imagine that the offer is something that I'm going to cover. So get as much as you can of the free stuff if you're not planning to join. But know that if you do join in the program that I'll be talking about in this toward the end of this presentation, right? Do know that we're going to go even deeper and you're going to get a lot more about how to apply what I'm teaching here to your situation. Okay. All right. So what do I mean when I say an offer? All right. Well, an offer is both your invitation to work with you, right? It's the invitation you put out there. Some might call that the pitch, right? When we pitch someone our offer. I don't like that word because it just sounds so transactional, but just because I'm using the 5 P's and I'm talking, right? I'm going to use the word pitch, even though I don't like the feel of it, but you know what I'm talking about. So it's both that, the actual invitation to work with you, and your offer is your actual container explaining how your work facilitates a particular outcome for a particular type of person, right? So sometimes when we say our offer, we really kind of mean our program, right? And then sometimes we mean an offer to work with you, whether that's extended verbally over a sales call, whether that's extended in a post, it's the pitch, if you will. Okay. Now, the foundation of your messaging and your content has to be your offer. Okay. You have to get your offer right before you can actually do any messaging content. And I've been surprised in the past. I don't know. You'll have to pop it in the chat and let me know if anybody's experienced this, but I've been surprised even recently that there are many coaches out there that are still saying, oh, like build an audience and get your audience following you and then ask them what they want and then sell it to, like, create it and sell it to them. And I'm like, wait, so you're building your audience through content first and then you're figuring out what you're selling them? No, right? It's exactly the opposite. It should be exactly the opposite. You figure out what are your highest gifts, right? And what are you best at what problem are you best at solving? You create an offer, and then through your messaging, you find the exact people who can afford it and need it, right? And so I always teach the offer first in any program that I'm doing, because that's what we have to nail down before any of your messaging will work or any of your tactics or, strategies will work. Okay. Now, again, most coaches are teaching this backwards. Okay. So that's what I mean when we say offer. So let's talk about the 5 P's of your offer. And we're going to go through each of them today. Usually I spread this over 2 to 3 classes. Today I'm giving you all, I'm just going to fire hose you today, just a big fire hose of information, but hopefully it will be helpful to you. Okay, so the 5 P's are positioning, packaging, pricing, pitching, the word I said I don't really like all that much, but hey, you can see how it fits in, and pitfalls to avoid. Okay, so the very first thing is positioning, and some people call this niching. They're kind of technically they're different, but in the business coaching world, we sometimes see positioning and niching as kind of the same thing. So I'm gonna sort of treat it that way. Okay. So what this is really positioning is what I call finding your high end edge. What is it that makes your program, your offer different from anything out there? And I know a lot of you are saying, well, I'm what makes it different, right? The fact that I'm offering it makes it different. Well, yes, to some degree that is true. But it's also, right, a combination of 3 things. It's the specific problem that you solve or outcome you enable, the unique mechanism with which you solve that problem, and the specific person for which you solve that problem. Okay. Now I have some like little infographics here that I'm going to pull up to show you. Okay. Okay. So this is a Venn diagram. I love my Venn diagrams. Remember, I used to be a philosophy teacher. Okay. So I got to use the Venn diagram every now and then. Crack that out. So the very first, remember I said it's your high-end edge, your unique edge is a combination of 3 things. Number 1, the specific problem you solve. Number 2, the unique mechanism that you use to solve it. And number 3, the specific person for whom you solve it. Okay. And the part that overlaps right here, the dark blue, that's what I am calling I call your high-end edge. It's kind of like your niche. Okay. And a lot of people like you who are super talented and they're multi-passionate and they love so many things, they're like, I don't know how I'm going to niche down. Okay. And I have some good news for you. Niching is not forever. Okay. It's not forever. But when you're first getting started, I want you to think, and I know I've used this analogy before, but for those who haven't seen it or are new on the call, I want to use it again. Your coaching journey is like an hourglass. It's shaped like an hourglass. It starts really wide and you're like, what can I do? I can do so many things. Like I'm a rapid transformational therapist and I can heal a lot of people, or I'm a mindset coach and I can really help with all kinds of things. Like, how do I narrow down? How do I narrow down? Right? Well, when you're first getting started, it's best to kind of feel your way into like a narrower positioning where you're helping a specific type of person. I'm going to show you how to find that in a minute, right? With a specific mechanism. And that's where you reach the middle of the hourglass. Then as you get to be really well known and people are like, oh yeah, like if people think I wouldn't claim to be extremely well known, right? But I'm at a point in my career where enough people know me that they're like, oh yeah, that's that high end, that high end person, right? That she helps people with high ticket pricing or high ticket messaging, right? So they may not know exactly who I help or whatever, but they get that idea. That's because like I started broad and then I really went narrow for a while. And I'm kind of like getting more like where I'm covering a lot of things like lead magnets, and I do a lot of things now, right? But for a while I was super niched. I was at the middle of the hourglass. And so that's what you really want to figure out is where is that middle of the hourglass for you so that you can get some traction and get really well known for like 6 months or a year, just doing one offer that is a specific problem for a specific type of person using a specific mechanism. Okay. So let's look at some questions that I have to help you walk through that high end edge. Okay. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the problems that you can solve for people, right? And you're going to ask yourself, what's the most sophisticated problem that I can solve? Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. And I'll talk more about that when I talk about pricing and how you can price higher versus lower. So I had a client once who was a dating and relationship coach. Okay. So being able to help people with their dating and relationships, that's a good problem to solve, right? And you can charge money for that. However, as we explored her niching and her, the most sophisticated problem she was able to solve, and we walked her through these steps, we decided that like she had a specialty with helping women who were married to partners on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum. Okay. And so that's a pretty sophisticated problem, being able, and she had all the goods to back it up, right? She had the receipts, as the kids say, right? She had the training and the certifications and the competence, and she had done it, right? She just didn't realize like she could make a whole like niche that was that, narrow, right? So as she went through those steps, she asked, the question she asked herself, what's the most sophisticated problem I can solve? I can save a marriage of a woman who's married to a man on the spectrum, and their relationship isn't going well, their marriage isn't going well because of the inability to communicate. She can solve that problem, right? The next question you ask yourself, what is the degree of certainty with which I can solve that problem? Well, she had a really, got a cat in some trouble. No, get down. Sorry. She has a really high degree of certainty, right? Because she's worked with clients like this over and over. Now, obviously, as a beginner, your degree of certainty will be low because you're new, and that's okay. Everybody has to start somewhere. But as you have successes and you are racking up testimonials and all of that, right, your degree of certainty gets higher. And so that's really important. Then I'm going to move this over here. You ask yourself, what is the unique process that you use to help your clients overcome that problem they have and don't want, and to get the outcome they want but don't yet have? All right. And so most of you are at a stage in your career where you have a process of some sort. If not, and if it doesn't have a name, right, the next questions you ask yourself, like, is it a modality, like rapid transformational therapy? Is it a framework that you've come up with? Is it a process where you help someone through a particular, for example, business coaches, right? We all have a process or a framework that we help people get a certain result, right? Does it have a name? It should, hint, hint. Okay. And ask yourself, what is different about my unique mechanism from my competition? Because there are other people out there solving similar problems. Okay. So those are really important questions. If I were you, I would write them down. Okay. These are the questions to ask yourself. Number one, what's the most sophisticated problem I can solve? Number two, what is the degree of certainty with which I can solve it? Then we figure out your unique mechanism. What's that process that you use to help them overcome their problem? Is it a framework, a modality, a method? Does it have a name? Number five, what is different about it from my competition? And then we come finally to this specific person that we solve it for, right? So the questions we ask ourselves there, number six, who would benefit most from having me solve their problem with my unique method? Okay, let me give you an example. A fitness pro who helps. So let's say there's a fitness pro who can help people add muscle and get limber really quickly. Okay. That's a pretty sophisticated problem. And they might have a really high degree of certainty. And they have a specific methodology that they use to do it, right? I don't know what that would look like because I'm not a fit pro. Obviously, I'm making stuff up. Okay, but here's where we get to the person that it would help. That unique methodology of becoming limber and strong, right, could be applied to the specific person of, let's say, scrawny college guys who want to get ripped and look really good for their, lady friends or whatever. Or I could apply that unique methodology to middle-aged to elderly adults who want to stay active and independent as long as they can, as they age. Two very different types of people, right? So you have to ask yourself, okay, who's going to benefit the most from that? And that there could be a lot of factors to that. And I'm going to give you some of that in the pricing section that we do. But like a lot of times I would look at you have to look at two things. Who's going to benefit most, number one. But number two, if you look at like question 7, right? Who do you enjoy working with the most? Right? So my mind might say, you'd have to look at your unique methodology and you say, is it equally easy and applicable for older adults versus young college guys? If it is, great. Okay. If you're like, ooh, no, it's not really as effective on college guys, it's more effective on the older people. Boom, there's your answer, right? Or you say like, who's it worth the most to? Well, middle-aged to older people might have more disposable income. It's worth more to them because they're seeing old age looming right on the horizon. And they're like, oh, I don't want to end up having to go into like assisted living at age 60. Like I want to be able to live in my own house till I'm 80 or 85 or older, right? It's worth it. It's worth a lot to them to get strong and to have a method to ensure that they stay limber and whatever, right? So these are the kinds of unique niches that I'm talking about that will position you as someone unique in the field. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that if you do step into working with me, either in this offering or sometime down the road, right, this is what we look at. We figure out what is your high-end edge, what sets you and your offer apart from anybody else out there who might be doing something similar. So you're not just a fit pro, right? You facilitate older people getting stronger, more limber, and staying in their homes, into old age, right? That's a really cool positioning as opposed to just saying, oh, I'm a fitness pro, right? So yes, I know some of you are saying, but there's fewer people who will hire me. Here's the scoop. When you look at that sophisticated problem that you can solve, yes, there are fewer people as opposed to like, I just serve anybody and help anybody with fitness, right? But those fewer people are paying you more. And I personally would rather serve fewer people more deeply for higher fees, right? I'd rather have 3 clients or 4 clients a month to serve and serve them very deeply and get paid higher fees than serve 12 or 15 or whatever clients a month and only be making a little bit of money for each one, right? So that's the goal of high ticket, is to solve a sophisticated problem so you can charge more because it's worth more, and you can go deeper and have the bandwidth to be able to serve just those few clients and do it really, really well. Okay, so that's part 1 on positioning. Okay, so now you say, okay, well, I kind of have an idea, but of how to do this, but like, how do I package all that up into a program? And again, I go much deeper into this in my program, but just to help you kind of get a framework, or process of how to get it out of your head and onto paper so that you can start, putting it out there. I want you to think of the A to B journey that your client makes. I mean, we've all heard coaches say, like, oh, you have to solve it. It's an A to B problem. They come in at this stage and they go out at this stage, right? I want you to look at that A to B journey as a series of obstacles, 3 to 5 obstacles that your client needs to overcome if they're going to get from point A to point B. Okay. Now, in order to do this, you have to actually have a really specific point A to point B. That's why we started with the positioning thing, right? And what is the most sophisticated problem that you can solve? Okay, you have to have a specific problem that you're solving for your client. And that problem, you have to have certain obstacles that they need to overcome to get there. Okay, so if it's that you help women over 50 lose 20 pounds, right? There are certain obstacles that you will know as the expert, right? You'll know that she has. Now, sometimes these are obstacles they're aware of, like they know they're overeating or they know they're not exercising regularly or whatever. Sometimes they're obstacles they're not aware of, like, that her hormones may be at play, or there may be, something else, right? That you as the expert know. Again, this is something that I help my clients with in terms of writing those epiphany posts. Remember, we talked about in those of you who are in the pop-up group, we talked about in the epiphany post the false thinking or the faulty beliefs they have, right? This is where some of that comes in, right? They're like, oh, I just can't lose those last 20 pounds. I'm just too old. I'm just gonna always have the middle-age spread, right? They have these preconceived notions. And some of those are actual obstacles that you will obviously work on in your program, right? So obviously the obstacles are going to roughly correlate with the application of your unique methodology. So whatever it is that you use to get your client from point A to point B, make sure that when you write down what are the 3 to 5 main obstacles that your program helps them overcome, right? Obviously it has to correlate with the program you're offering, right? Okay. So each obstacle that your client conquers should bring them a win that builds their confidence. This is how you package up a program that keeps people like feeling like there's forward momentum and that they're actually getting their money's worth, right? And they feel like, wow, I had, I got it. I did this step, or I had this worked, and I didn't, I was like a little nervous. I didn't think it would, but it did. And I feel so great. I'm ready for the next piece, right? You want them always constantly going forward. So you want to make sure you arrange the application of your unique methodology in such a way that it makes sense. For example, right, when I told you earlier about like that I always teach the offer first, that's why, right? Because one of the obstacles I see my clients have is that they have a really fuzzy offer that doesn't speak to the A to B. It doesn't lay it out in a logical way, right? So if we get that nailed down first, then we can figure out how to write all their content so it makes sense to point back to the offer and get people reaching out. If I taught that in the opposite way, I'm not confident that I would be very successful as a coach, right? I'm not confident they would be very successful. It's probably why many of you have taken courses where you haven't been successful. We've all been there, by the way. I mean, where you've taken something and you're like, oh, somebody is teaching you, and not in a, they don't mean to, or they've been taught that way, and we've all seen it happen, right? That everybody's teaching it a certain way. But this is what I'm talking about. You want to make sure that your unique methodology helps them conquer those obstacles in a logical way that keeps them moving forward. Okay. Now, if you have more than 3 to 5 obstacles, one of two things is happening. either number one, your point A is not narrowly enough defined, like their starting point is not narrowly enough defined, or you're getting too granular in the steps of your unique methodology. That's something that it would be really hard for me to figure. I mean, I can just give you this information so that you can file it away somewhere, right? And take that down as a note. But unless you're working with me one-to-one, it would be hard for me to, know unless we're working together. But just FYI, if you're coming up with like, well, I have 24 obstacles for them to, one of two things, right? So, and this is something I see happen a lot as well, as people are in these 6-month or year-long, or sometimes they're only 3-month programs or something, and people are getting wildly different results, right? Like some people are making, let's say it's a business program, and some people go in and they're making $50,000 a month by the 3rd month of this year-long program, and other people are not making anything, right? Why does that happen? Well, one of the reasons is that coaches are letting in people at too many varied point A in the journey, right? So let me give you an example of that. One person may go into that year-long business membership or mentorship or whatever, and they may have no followers, no offer, they've never done social media before, etc. Another person might come in who has 3 high ticket offers. They're already making 10K a month. They've been through other programs where they know how to do messaging, right? So can you see how by the month 3 or month 6 or month 12 of this year-long program, these 2 people are going to get wildly different results? That's because their point A is much too broad, right? The problem that you solve for somebody should be that the closer your point A to your point B is, the better. Okay. So if you're like, I'm going to take you from making nothing and having no high-end offer and no experience to making 50K a month, and you can do it in this year-long process and whatever, right? Way too broad. You're way too broad. Okay. So number one, you're going to have a ton of competition because everybody says they can do that, right? But number two, you're going to get wildly varying results because your point A is not narrowly defined, right? So you're better off to have like a beginner to moderate course where people who are at a certain point come in and they make it through the 3 to 5 obstacles, and then you can usher them into a bigger program, right? Because you know that they've already achieved ABC in your first program. You're better off to do that than to have this huge program, right? And let's just let anybody in and open the gates. So that's something that I work very closely with my clients on, is figuring out what is the point A? What do they, and here's another way you can think of your point A. This is gold now, so don't miss this. Okay, I'm laying down a gold nugget for you. Ask yourself, what are 10 things that my client needs to come to the table with in order to be wildly successful in my program? What are 10 things my client needs to come to the table with already so that they will be wildly successful in my program? Okay, think hard about that, because the more defined you can be about that, the better your clients will do, the better your testimonials will be, the happier they'll be, the more integrity you'll feel, right? So that's what you need to really think about. That wasn't in my notes, so it's not on the screen, but it's some gold for you. Okay. All right. So for example, I'm going to do, this is shameless promotion time, because I'm going to talk about my offer right now and use it as an example too. Okay. So let's say I have my clients in one of my offers, the new one that I'm just putting out called Organic Funnel Fire. Okay, the point A is that their audience is not really responding or engaging. Very few people are reaching out to work with them. Okay, point B is now the audience is engaging, they're opting in, whether it's to your group or your lead magnet or whatever, and they're reaching out to work with you. Okay. So these would be my obstacles. And yes, this is exactly how I laid out my organic funnel fire offer, right? I actually thought, what are the 4 obstacles that my potential clients are having? So obstacle number 1 is their offer is really fuzzy, or their offer pitches don't contain the essential elements needed to lead a prospective client to reach out without like a bunch of objections, right? Obstacle 2 is their messaging is not consistently referring back to their high-end offer. So that confuses their prospective clients. Their prospective clients don't really know what they do from their content, right? Obstacle 3, their content and offers aren't actually getting seen by enough people, okay? And obstacle number 4, their tactics are scattered and all over the place. They're trying a mix of too many strategies like podcasts, Instagram, webinars, this, that, the other, right? And they lack a simple, because they lack a simple, elegant, organic lead generation system that works with the algorithm. So yes, look at this. I have an offer. And this is for real. I mean, this is real, but it's also a good example, right? So in the Organic Funnel Fire program, which you can find at jennyobi.com/fire. How smooth was that, right? Part 1, we do the offer. So that knocks out obstacle 1. And remember what I said before about the logical order you have to do it in. Okay, part 2 is we start learning how to write content so you feel confident about what to share. Part 3 and 4 knock down obstacles 3 and 4. Those, they're kind of combined. They're kind of almost impossible to separate. So I just put them together. Facebook profile optimization, and then connection strategy, right? How to get more people accepting your friend request and actually seeing what you write. Okay. So that is how I laid it out. I had to pick the point A. Now, obviously, I have some other things of point A, and I really help you dig down deep to your point A. I'm making it simple as an example here, okay? And then I have another program too. Most of you have heard me talk about that one, Sold Out Social, where you actually go from like, okay, you've got an engaged audience, they're opting in, they're reaching out to work with you, but maybe they're not quite all signing on right away. Right? That takes you that next step so that you're getting 3 to 5 high ticket clients consistently every month, right? Just by doing these few things, right? So, and the reason I'm not promising anything, right? And this goes to the integrity thing that a couple of you asked some questions. I had that post in the group and said, what are your burning questions? Many of you asked about integrity. I'm hoping that after the first, 12 to 15 people that go through this Organic Funnel Fire, which is a new beta offer, it's priced at introductory pricing, right? I'll be able to say with confidence, oh, and guess what? You're going to have, 2 people a month reaching out, signing up, right? I can't really say that right now because this is a relatively new program. I'm teaching you some very new things. I know a lot about offer creation and content, and people in my Sold Out Social get 2 to 4 clients a month, right? But do I know that this program will do it yet? Not yet. So I'm not going to say that. But that's why it's at a beta price. It's not at, right? And so this is how you test things. Guys, for those of you who are like, well, I don't know, I want to be of integrity when I test, I get you, right? So you take what you can do and what you do know will get results. And I say, I know for a fact that if people do what I'm telling them to do, their audience will become engaged. They will start to reach out. They will opt in, right? Whether or not you can sell them once they reach out to you, that's a whole other problem that my offer isn't solving. My next offer solves, right? This just solves the narrow problem of getting a bigger audience, getting them engaged, knowing what to write, making sure you're not confusing them with your client, with your content, making sure your offer is good, making sure everything is the foundations to then start selling people with a simple sales process, right? So I would not, right? If so, for example, right, if you have a program that you need people to come to the table, let's say, oh, I'm trying to think of a really good example. Let's say you're a dating coach, okay? And you teach people how to you teach people, you help people with their online profile, okay? Because they're really good at, like, once they get the dates, like, they're really good at, following, like, having good relationships and whatnot. And they're good in person, they're very personable, they don't need coaching in terms of like how to relate to the opposite sex. All they're having trouble with is writing the profile. Then I would make your offer just about optimizing their profile, right? um, then again, if you have someone who's really good in person, or who's not really good in person, right, and you're trying to tell them that you're going to take them from no dates ever to married within 6 months, but they need specific things that you're not equipped to give them. Maybe you're not equipped to help them with one aspect of dating, right? I don't know, maybe whatever that is, right? Don't make this big wide program where people can come in. Some are really good online, some are terrible online, some are great in person, some are not, some need help with their wardrobe, others need complete makeovers, right? Unless you're qualified to help them with every single aspect of going from never having had a long-term relationship to married, right? Unless you really can, in integrity, help them with all of that, I would choose a piece of that journey and make that offer about that, right? And then until you're getting consistent results from those clients, right, don't say that you can help them with something that you don't know for sure that your offer helps. Okay. So that's my best advice to answer the questions about staying in integrity, which I appreciate about this group, that you care about that. So that's great. Okay. So then, as I pointed out, I have like 4 obstacles, right? And then I have 4 pieces to my offer that correlate with those obstacles. And that's how you'll want to do it too. Figure out what's that short point A to point B that you can help them with, and what are the 3, 4, 5 things that they need to conquer to be successful and get to point B. Okay. All right. So pricing our offer. Well, how do we price our offer? How do you know? And there are questions about that too. A few you DM'd me and said, like, I'm afraid to charge too much, or I'm afraid I'm not charging enough. So I got you covered. All right. So there are 5 factors that determine how much you can charge in the marketplace for the problem that you solve. Okay. The first one is the sophistication of the problem. We talked about that before when I gave you the example, right, of the relationship coach that just kind of helped anybody with all kinds of problems, right? It wasn't a very sophisticated problem. Or somebody who could help partners, marriages where one partner was on the spectrum. Okay. That's a very sophisticated problem. The more sophisticated the problem you can solve, the higher money you can charge. Example, drywall installers versus historic horsehair plaster restorers. I know this for a fact because at one point I was hired I lived in a historic building. It had horsehair plaster walls. It was on the National Register, and I was the building manager, and I had to hire people who knew how to restore historic horsehair plaster because you couldn't slap drywall up where there was horsehair plaster. And believe me, it was expensive to do that compared to just slapping up some drywall. Okay. That's a sophisticated problem to solve. Okay. The second thing is the intensity of the problem. Example, a cut on your finger versus a bleed on your brain, right? If you can solve a bleed on someone's brain, AKA you're a brain surgeon, right? You can charge a whole lot more than, a medic who's going to put a plaster, a band-aid, as we say in the US, on your cut, right? The amount of time experiencing the problem, the longer they've suffered, the more you can charge. And that sounds I don't mean that to sound like you're taking advantage of their suffering, right? But if this is a problem, especially in the business world, this is true, but in any situation, right? If somebody's been suffering with in Natanya, she's a migraine coach, okay? If somebody has been suffering with migraines like a really long time and they've never been able to get them under control, and now it's starting to affect their job and their career, maybe their family life, etc. And she's got a very specialized way to control that naturally without drugs or whatever, right? Then she is going to be able to charge more because they've been experiencing it longer and it's now affecting things that are like really important in their lives. Okay. Again, we talked about this earlier, the degree of certainty with which you can solve that problem. So obviously results and testimonials are super important. And remember, when you're positioned right and you're solving a small problem, not a big, huge problem, you're not gonna get sporadic results. You're gonna know exactly who is set up to take the best advantage of your offer. You're only going to invite those people in. If they don't have what they need to bring to the table to be successful, you're not going to invite them in, right? You're not just gonna have a click to buy, anybody can buy it, right? If you have an A to B offer that's done right, you'll get insanely good results, loads of testimonials, etc. But if you're in these long, year-long, 2-year, whatever, 6-month programs, and you'll just let anybody in the door, you're gonna get sporadic results, which means you're gonna start, not only is that like in my opinion, out of integrity, but you're also not going to get the testimonials. You're going to start to doubt yourself because you're going to overwork to try to help the people that you let in that you shouldn't have. I've been there. We've all been there. I'm not criticizing anyone or, I've been in that position where I had to work with somebody an extra long time because I was like, oh, dang, I should not have let them in. They weren't ready for this program yet. They were not at point, they didn't have all the things they needed to have in point A to be successful, right? We've all done it. So it's a pitfall to avoid. And then finally, the speed at which you can solve the problem. A longer problem is not necessarily better. In fact, in today's age, people want things quicker. High-end clients value their time over their money, because they understand the cost of not investing. Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. The cost of not investing. All right, if you know that, like, again, going back to Natanya, the migraine coach, right? If Natanya knows that someone is not getting her help and they could invest, I don't know, 1,500 or 3,000 or whatever it is, that I don't know what she charges right now for her high ticket, right? But let's say she charges $3,000 for a 3-month program, and in that 3 months, she helps them figure out a really good way to manage their migraines so they stop missing work and whatever. Okay, premium clients, it's not necessarily about the money, right? It's about getting their life back, right? And they know that the cost of not investing that $3,000 is that for the next 6 months, 12 months, 10 years, their entire life, they're going to keep missing work. They're going to keep missing out on their kids' games or whatever, because they get excruciating migraines that they can't control. Like, there is a cost involved to not investing high ticket, and premium clients get that. right? That's who you want. You want the people who know that if they're leaving money on the table, or they're leaving time on the table, or they're not, they know that if they don't just invest and get your help, right, they're going to suffer a whole lot longer, and they don't want that. They value their time over their money. Okay. Lower ticket investors, nothing wrong with being there. We've all been there, where we have more time than money, right? So you have to kind of DIY it and reverse engineer it. But at some point, if the problem goes unsolved, that person will become a high ticket buyer, because they'll realize, like, I've got to just save up the money, or I've got to do whatever it takes to solve this problem now, because if I don't invest now, I'm actually losing more money or more time or more whatever in the long run, right? So but anyway, so that's a little bit of a side note. But back to the speed at which you can solve a problem. I could have made this organic funnel fire thing easily a 3-month course, because like I have so much information that I can pour in, right? But I'm making it 8 weeks, because I know that in 8 weeks we can cover what needs to be covered to get the flywheel going, right? If people continue to work with me after that program, in the deeper program, great. Yeah, that's fine. You can more time and we'll go deeper and whatever. But I don't need to spend 6 months or a year doing this, because I'm just covering a very important but narrow A to B problem, right? I've seen coaches that do 30-day thing and charge 5, 6, 8 grand for it, right? Because, and when we get to the pricing, right, we'll talk about this, they know that the return on investment for that time, it's like an easy thing, okay? So let's talk about that. How do you figure out your return on investment of working with you? Like, how do we find it? How do you say, like, what is it really worth to go through my program? Well, let's consider the practical value of your program, right? When they get done working with you in 8 weeks, let's say your 8-week program is $6,000 or $2,000 or $10,000. It doesn't matter what the cost is, right? What, after they get done working with you, what is the practical value of that going forward, right? Is it something they'll always be able to apply? Probably. I would imagine that the benefit doesn't end after the 8 weeks, right? There is a long-term use value or practical value that extends way beyond the time when they're done working with you. So that's something you have to consider. So what you want to ask yourself is, what is it costing my clients in terms, write this down now. What is it costing my clients in terms of time, money, energy, and relationships to stay stuck in their problem? What is it costing them? And don't just like, oh, well, it's kind of, they're probably missing work, so they might be missing, or they're missing their kids' games. So go deep into that. Why does it matter? Okay, if you ask yourself, like, well, they're missing their kids' game, why does that matter? Because it's going to affect their relationship with the kids. Why does that matter? Right? Go deep into this. Go like 3 or 4 levels deep for every single thing that you find under time, under money, under relationships, under, energy. Ask yourself, what's the deeper thing? Why does it matter? Go 3 or 4 levels deep. This, my friends, and to answer one of the questions I think somebody asked was like, how do I know? Like, I think it was Betty who asked, how do I know that my program is worth what I'm charging? This is how you know. You talk yourself through and you look at everything. Okay. And then I recommend that you charge 10 to 20% of the ROI that you can get them in 1 year. So let's look at a business coach and a non-business coach, okay? So if a business coach can help you earn $5K a month, that's an extra 50 to 60K per year, right? So a 5K price tag is that, what I said, 10 to 20% of the ROI that you can help them get in 1 year, right? So if you can help them add $50,000 to $60,000 a year, a 5K price tag is really a good deal when you think that's that practical long-term value. Okay, some coaches call it a use value. An example, a leaky gut coach can help them reverse leaky gut disease, right? How many medical bills have you saved them as a leaky gut coach, right? How many medical bills? 50,000? 10,000? I don't know. I have no idea. But think about it practically. What are the medications they're on? Not just that, but getting their life back on track, right? People with leaky gut disease have, could be missing, maybe they're missing work all the time. Maybe who knows, right? Go through that list. Ask yourself, what's it costing them? Time, money, energy, and relationships. It's costing them something. Okay. And so if you can save them, if they would spend $30,000 in medical bills and lost wages and vacations that they had to cancel at the last minute because they couldn't go, who knows? I don't know, right? Would $3,000 be a great investment to save 30,000? I'm pretty sure it would be, right? So that's what I'm talking about. You really want to understand. And the other thing is, what are you saving them in terms of things that they might try if they don't go with you, right? How many things have they tried that haven't worked, or might they try that haven't worked, right? Okay. So number 4, pitching. This is where we directly share our offer in detail and we invite our ideal clients to work with us. Now, there is a specific kind of post that I teach called an offer post, and this is going to be in the Organic Funnel Flyer. Again, shameless sales reference right there. But they're the posts that almost no one is doing, and if they're doing it, they're not doing it quite right, right? I see this all the time. Now, the reason that people don't actually share a direct invitation to work with you is that they're afraid of being salesy. Okay, they're afraid of being salesy because we see low ticket coaches constantly pushing their $27 offers, or people who sell juice supplements or oils or this or that. And sometimes they're pushing it all the time. We're like, oh, I don't want to be like that. And I get it, right? But the reality is, if you don't tell people that you have a program on offer, how will they know? How will they know? So there is a way to share this that is very dignified, very high end, and yet so effective that you can almost immediately book clients as soon as you share, right? This is where people reach out and say, oh, I really think I need that with you, right? And yeah, this is the other thing. High ticket off, we tend to go the opposite, like where low ticket people are sharing all the time. We do the opposite, and we almost like hide our offers. We hide this behind a discovery call a lot of times, right? And those discovery calls, by the way, if you're hearing I can't afford it often, okay, there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one is that the wrong people got on the call. Okay, the wrong people got on the call in the first place because you weren't clear about the point A, and you didn't put that point A in your offer post. So that's one of the things that I'll teach you, is how to figure out what is not just what is the point A, but how to get it into your offer post, right? Another reason you hear I can't afford it is that you're telling them the very first time on the discovery call what the offer is, and they haven't had a chance to digest it. So they're being polite to you, and they're saying, well, I really need to think about it. Okay. But if you're doing your content right and your offer post right, the offers and the contents do the selling for you. So you don't have to handle objections, because you're not getting objections. Okay. You don't have to handle there's no need for all kinds of sales training and stuff like that, because the right people will get on. In fact, I don't even do sales calls. I ask people to reach out by messenger. I make my offer so complete that they know exactly what they're getting. And if they have questions, they can ask me. And generally they're just saying like, I'm ready. How, like, where do I pay? Can you send me the pay link? Okay. So that's what I'll teach you. If you come into the Organic Funnel Fire, that's the first thing we work on, is that offer, both the container and the pitch. Okay. So basically you're going to be very specific in this. There are like 10 elements that I teach you how to include, but you're going to be very specific in exactly who it's for, where they should be starting in their own journey, the exact outcomes that are created, your unique process, and what they need to do next. And not only what they need to do next, but what will happen when they do. So for example, on the Organic Funnel Fire sales page, I say at the bottom, like, reach out to me via Messenger when you do. And then I explain what will happen. I'll ask you a couple questions to make sure you have the foundations in place. If you have those, I'll invite you in and send you the pay link, right? Boom, easy peasy. But most people miss that. So people are a little nervous to reach out. Okay. So when you do these offer posts right, these high value clients are going to come to you pre-qualified and pre-sold. They won't have objections because you've shared all the elements required beforehand. They know what they're getting. They don't have to process it really quick on a high pressure sales call where they're hearing it for the first time, right? They've already processed it. Some people, it takes longer to process than others, right? So if you give them that sales post and everything is the offer post and everything is on there, you're not going to have any problems. Will you have fewer people reaching out and fewer people getting on calls? Yes, you will, because they're the right people, right? So instead of getting 10 sales calls a week that you have to spend 10 hours a week on sales calls, and maybe getting 4 of them saying yes, you may get, 2 or 3 calls and they'll all say yes. You don't have to spend 7 extra hours hearing no, right? On a sales call and hearing no. I personally would much rather have fewer people reaching out and immediately saying yes than having to spend a whole bunch of time strong arming people and having to deal with their objections because they're not really the right fit. I did sales calls all the time, and what I would say when I first started out, and what I would say 90% of the time was, you know what, I don't think this is a good fit for you. This program isn't actually a good fit for you, right? Because so it was a waste of my time and it was a waste of their time. You're much better integrity if you just lay it all out there and let the ones who are a good fit self-select. Okay. Okay. So finally, the pitfalls to avoid really quickly, and then I'll open them up to questions because I did plan a 90-minute seminar here so you could have time for questions. Okay. So there are pitfalls to avoid. So again, I think I already covered this one, not narrowly enough, defining that point A starting point. Okay. Here's a big one, and I want to talk about this for a second. Over giving too many one-to-one sessions, too many worksheets, too much stuff to do, right? This comes from a lot of different places, but one of the things is that we want to feel like we're justifying that high ticket price. And here's the thing: if you are just solving a small, narrow, problem that's worth a lot of money for them to solve, right? You don't need to overgive. In fact, overgiving just makes them feel like there's too much busy work in the program, and they end up kind of like overwhelmed, right? Give them just what they need to knock out that obstacle number 1 and move on to obstacle number 2. Then just what they need to knock out obstacle 2 and move on to number 3, etc. Okay. Again, packaging, it could be too long or too short, right? I've had to adjust my programs before. I used to do one that was 6 weeks, and because it was so writing intensive and writing is very creative, I extended it. It's bigger. It became I made it a little longer, etc. Right? So don't make it too long. And then we talked about the year-long ones, right? If you've got a year-long one, but you've got all kinds of people coming in at different points, that's a mess, right? Another pitfall to avoid is that you have no signature process to deliver your result. Like you haven't put it into a container, like with a framework, a method, a process that they can anchor into. So, right. So I have this process that I'm selling you, right? The organic funnel fire. It's the 8-week, which actually I should mention for the people in the captivating content group, I'm actually adding 2 bonus weeks. So that's one of the bonuses of coming in now. But like it's a process, and it's offer, content, Facebook profile, content, connection strategies, right? It's boom, boom, boom. It's a process that you'll go through and have, something to anchor into. People want to know that you have a process, and they want to be able to look at that visually. So like if I take you over to, this is the sales page for it, right? If I take you over there, you'll see at jennyobi.com/fire, you will see right here, here's what we'll cover. Okay. And I say area 1, and then I describe it, and I tell them what they'll walk away with in that section. So, right. And then I have area 2, right? It's a process. You have to have something that their brains can anchor into and see, oh, I get it. We're going to do this, then this, then this, then this. You can't just be like, well, I don't have. So what happens a lot of times, I have a lot of coaches that will say to me, well, I don't really have a framework. I just it's bespoke. And I would encourage you to look back on all your most successful clients and say, what are the things you did in common for them? Even if it's just as simple as, first I figure out where their subconscious blocks are. Then I use my magical transformational secret sauce, whatever it is, to deal with that, tapping, I don't know, whatever it is you do, right? And then we do XYZ, right? You may have 3 steps that you do with everybody. It doesn't mean that your work with each person is going to be like identical, right? Obviously it's not, but you must have some sort of process that you can lay out in an offer post. Otherwise, people aren't going to know what you do, and they're going to be very hesitant to reach out. Okay. And then finally, one pitfall that I see is like when you're pitching is that you're focusing on the deliverables, in like, how many calls do I get? How many group coaching, whatever meetings do we have? How many this, how many that, right? So the deliverables people don't care about. What they care about is the transformation. And so that's a delicate balance. Okay. All right. So those are the 5 P's. These are some of the questions that people had asked. Greg asked, how do you make them so amazing that your inbox just gets people coming in asking to start? Well, you have to have an amazing, unique process. You have to have an A to B with a hair on fire problem that somebody wants to solve. But I think the flood of inbox stuff comes with the combination of, you have a great, huge, engaged audience, and you're laying out your offer step by step in a way that they get. Okay. Effie asked a great question. Why high-end offers are so much part of the online space and so rare in brick and mortar? Is it possible to bridge that gap? I agree with you. They are rare in brick and mortar. I do have a client who she is completely like word of mouth in her local community. I will say this, she lives in a very affluent community where, high ticket is not unusual. So I guess it depends on your community. It probably depends on how you offer it, where you offer it, what you're considering high ticket. But mostly it involves like, what is the transformation? Can they get that anywhere else? Right. And it really is about helping them understand what I'm giving you is something unique, high end, different, and it's going to have a specific return on investment. So it can be done, but it is a little bit more difficult. And that's not something I actually specialize in. I really specialize in people who do work in the online space, but the principles are similar. So, it's not like this won't help you, but yeah. Okay. This is a great question. Is it okay to sell directly high-end offers, or should you sell lower ones and free webinars to let people understand what you have to offer and how it is working? How it working, like giving you a taste of working with them, I think is what she meant. Okay, great question. So yeah, at the early stage of your business, especially, take one high-end offer, write about it consistently, keep your audience fresh and, big. And that is all you need to do. People are not generally, in fact, people who are going to buy your low ticket stuff are not going to just buy are not going to immediately. Usually if you have a bunch of low ticket stuff and that's what they're buying, they're in that mindset still that they're just they're kind of DIY, right? They're trying to do it themselves. They're valuing their money over their time because they probably don't have a lot of money. Again, no criticism. We've all been there, but they're not yet ready to buy your high ticket. So what happens is in the first stage of business, you really want to focus on one high ticket offer, selling it out. Okay. Then you can do group coaching. So it's one-to-one. Then your next stage of business is layering in one-to-many. So you have your high ticket one-to-one and your one-to-many. That's how you reach your first 10K months doing just one-to-one. And if it's positioned well enough, people don't need to buy anything low ticket. They'll just come. They can see that you can solve their problem. They'll buy it. Then you add in you can layer in group programs to get to those 20, 30, 50K months, right? And then at some point you'll layer in back and low ticket, offers for passive income, basically. Those are the kind of 3 stages of business. I've talked about that in other places. I can do that another time. But basically, your question is, do they have to buy a $17 tripwire and then your $197 offer? And then, no, if you have your A to B and your unique methodology and it's all laid out in this beautiful offer post and they know that you can solve their problem and they've followed your content for a little bit, they will buy high ticket. The right buyers will buy. You don't need to do low ticket first. And then Betty had asked, how can I be sure I'm not ripping people off, right? And that my offer is in fact worth the high-end price point, right? So that you don't subconsciously sabotage your own success. And that is a danger. Sometimes we think, oh, it's not worth it. Or we try and add a bunch of extra stuff, right? That people don't need, don't want. And that goes back to that asking yourself, what is it costing them in terms of time, money, energy, and relationships to stay stuck in their problem? Okay. And if you do that exercise and you really look at what is the real cost of them staying stuck, I am sure you will feel immediately like you think of a divorce coach, right? If you can save someone from getting a divorce for $5,000 or even $10,000, if they got a divorce, they're going to have to come up with at least $50,000 plus 2 dwellings, child support, tons and tons of money that they'd have to come up with. So if you can save them all that and charge them $5,000 or $8,000 or $10,000, that's a no-brainer, right? So that's what you have to be thinking. You have to be thinking ahead, what is the cost of them not investing? Okay, that's what you're saving them. Okay, so that, my friends, is it. And so again, we did the 5 P's of your offer: the positioning, packaging, pricing, pitching, and the pitfalls to avoid. And I know I fire hosed you there. So here's the scoop. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Going to recommend that even if you were live on this call, you'll still get the replay. I'm going to recommend that you watch it again if you are wobbly on your high-end offer whatsoever. And I will take questions. So let's see. Lena signing off. Okay, so Betty, I'll go with the chat questions first. And Betty says, how often should I post the high ticket offer on Facebook? So that it depends, and that's something I work on we'll work on in the organic funnel fire, and then with my sold out social clients as well, as we look at like what is a content strategy that works for you. I recommend on average though, once a week. And there is a way that I'm also teaching in organic funnel fire where I'm going to show you how to write an epiphany post and make a little bridge to a mini offer. So you'll have the big offer that you share standalone post one time a week. And then there are ways to bridge to a mini offer on your epiphany post multiple times a week. You want to share a lot. And the reason is that obviously if you have, let's say you have 3,000 Facebook friends, okay? And let's say even most of them are engaged, which is, it's more like maybe 500 or 1,000, right? But let's say, you know, most of them are engaged. Facebook still only shows it to 20 or 30% of your followers. So you may share a post that a bunch of your followers don't see, and next week you share a different one, and these people don't see it, but these people do, right? So you can never really overshare, especially if you're combining the value of an epiphany post with people still coming in and out, with a mini offer at the end. So does that make sense, Betty? And you guys can unmute and ask questions too, for sure. That makes sense? I don't know if Betty's still there. Okay, yes, okay, cool. And you also asked, have you found certain days of the week are better for posting an offer? I don't know, not necessarily. Not really. I mean, I don't know that I've ever actually kept track of that. So that's interesting. I'm always testing things. So that might be the next thing I test. So we shall see. But I don't have an answer to that. No, sorry. All right. Anybody else who wants to just pop on, ask questions, pick my brain, ask me whatever. Yeah. Dawn.
Hi. Oh, I keep getting my video off. Okay. Hi. My question is, we're working on what will be a high-end signature program. It has met all, the things you talked about earlier, getting what they are, but it met all of the criteria. It's organized, it has a solid framework, a solid, everything that you'll achieve through it. We have
Excellent.
Well, but we're still developing it. It's kind of complex. It's for trauma healing and beyond into an empowerment phase. So we have kind of two huge phases, because we don't like people just stop. You don't have the symptoms, but you're still anyway. So my question is I'm vacillating, because we have virtually no online presence. We've done no marketing at all.
Yep.
So what we're focusing on is, let's get our high-end program developed well. And then that's kind of where then we can, I don't know, like, there's nobody knows us except people who personally know us.
Right.
I think we put that out there. Well, who are you? I haven't even heard of you already,
So that's where your content is going to come in. And I'm telling you, you can establish the know, like, and trust so easily and so quickly just by using the epiphany posts, the offer post, and the affinity posts, all of which you and I have talked, but that's all of those are in the organic funnel fire. You really would you'll be surprised at how quickly,
Yeah.
especially the work that you're doing is so needed, and so
It
people
is.
support that. So the more you add in your profile, I mean, this system takes, 2 to 3 months to ramp up if you're starting at nothing, right? If
Mhm.
you're starting and you already have a following, you're going to be like, boom, you're going to be on fire. But that's why I call it organic funnel fire. But I think you'll be surprised at how quickly you'll build up, and you're doing it the right way. Start by having an offer, right? And then get your content out there. Now, is your offer just about ready to go?
Well, no, that's what I mean. We're
Yeah.
thinking it's going to take us at least 3 months because we want to do it well,
Yeah.
really, really well, have our act together well, good, et cetera. So we're thinking at least another 3 months till.
So what I would do then is
done
I
at
would
least.
build, so I would just drive people, maybe have a group where you could drive people to, right? So build up. It's not like you don't know what you're going to be offering. You're just not ready to sell it yet, right?
Right. the
So if
detail.
you didn't know what you were offering, I'd be like, no. But no, what I would recommend is drive people into that group. Okay. Give them, post your epiphany post there, hype up your offer, get them ready, right? And then when that offer is ready to go, you can even like pre-sell it. Like when you're like, say, a few weeks out, you can start pre-selling it and then drip the content out week by week, or something like that. There are loads of ways you can do that, but you're not going out of order. This is exactly what you should be doing, is
Okay.
like, yeah, you're totally on the right track.
So in the group, would you give them little tastes, like,
Mhm.
here's a neurosensory exercise, but just little tastes?
Yes. And and how to do that is exactly like one of the foundations of organic funnel fire.
Okay.
Like, so yeah, that's happening. Bijal, this is Ting Ting. Bijal is on the call and she can't talk, but she likes it when my cats come on. So this is my Siamese Ting Ting. So, okay. Hi, baby girl. She doesn't know she's a star. She's an internet star. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, Hannah had to leave us. I didn't say goodbye, but I hope she knows that. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
I'll ask a question.
Yeah.
If you're ready for
Sarah.
another question. It's Sarah. Sorry, I've been in and off, or on and off. It's been, I sent you a message, so the details are in there. I think we talked about this last spring when we were doing the work together, but you caught my ear about the 1-year program and where they start.
Yeah.
And I hate, because I'm often with Jenny, y'all, the contrarian. I'm like, but I've seen this work. Like, she says it's never going to work. I'm like, but I do that. And it works, so I'm also really good at selling, on the phone, like just the caveat there. Right. But, my year-long program, I've had like brand new entrepreneurs come into it and, get to $8,000 to $10,000 months. And I've had more seasoned people, like the 3 to 8K, like that's what, people who will get the best results with me are already at 3 to 8K. Jenny helped me write that. Right. And those people can come in and get to 13, 15,000. So, and I think it's because, and, maybe you can just like affirm, the how I get the result, my method, it's so foundational. Right. It's so bedrock, because my thing is like, let's actually talk to people. Let's have conversations. Let's know how to have them in a strategic way that isn't weird for the other person, because they're like, ooh, she's selling to me.
What you're teaching them is actually, it's exactly what you're saying. It's a foundational piece that the 3 to 8K people skipped over. And
just need to do it even better. To do it even better. Yeah.
And the 0 people haven't gotten yet. Right. And so you are filling in a gap for some and teaching the basics to others, if that makes sense, but with the same thing.
Yeah.
So your people, so the thing that they come to the table with is not the number, it's the willingness to do XYZ type of marketing that you teach, right?
Got it. That really want to have like that foundational conversation and make money everywhere.
They
like
want the
find clients everywhere.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Like
Appreciate
me,
it.
have sold, you and I have both sold, I believe, high ticket packages in a grocery store, was it? That I know I have.
Yeah, well, yeah, waiting for a table at a
Yeah.
restaurant,
Yeah.
and it is about having some sense of how to have those, not sales conversations, but I have the 7 essential money-making conversations, but the
Right.
3 conversations that come before the sales conversation
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a way, and then having your antenna up. That's one thing I'm doing, like I've been yabbering about in my year-long program is like,
Right.
and you have to have your antenna. Like I was
But
at a
see,
conference a
your
month ago and
program too, it teaches a specific thing, and that's
uh-huh,
sales mastery, right? And feminine
yeah.
sales mastery. And like you have, I'm talking more like the big programs that are like, we'll take all the ideas out of your head and we'll make it into a program
Oh,
and we'll sell you this and we'll teach you how to do
I
webinars and
see.
then we'll do that. Like that's what I'm talking
I
about.
see. The
Yeah.
slutty strategies. Sorry.
You're wearing not mine,
Let's
girl.
do all the things.
Yeah. Right. Like the people that
And
literally
really
just
run
are
ourselves
like,
into the ground. Yeah.
maybe I'd like to be an online coach, like, and okay, here, give us 20 grand and 10 in a year, and we'll teach you how to do that in soup
Make
to
you
nuts.
an
And then
island.
other
Yeah.
people, that's what I'm more talking about.
Thank
Yeah.
you for clarifying. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
it.
No,
You're the
you're
best.
good. You're good. All right. Who else? Who else? Oh. Did I go too fast? Sorry. I was trying to pack a lot in. Becky usually has a question, but you're smiling over there.
I don't have a question right now. I'm just thinking you've just given us so much information, and not in a bad way, like in a really good way. There's so many things to
Yeah.
apply. Like, yeah, I don't really have a question right now, and I feel
Okay,
like I'm
good.
wasting an opportunity because we don't often,
You're so
we don't
funny.
often get to ask you direct questions. But
Oh, I was just being
yeah.
cheeky with you. Just being cheeky with you. But
Thank you.
yeah, and so that you guys know, I don't know if any of you are interested in the organic funnel fire. I'm letting you do a 3-pay over the 10 weeks. So there's a DIY. I'm gonna pitch, but also to answer your question a little bit about like how does this stuff that I've taught you like tie into that. So there is a core that just is the dripped out course over 10 weeks plus 5 group calls because I'm adding a bonus. Okay, but the and then there's a 1-to-1 upgrade that you can do where you get 1-to-1 time with me. So you get everything in the core, plus you get direct messaging for 10 weeks. You get 5 sales calls, 1-to-1 coaching calls, not sales calls, and then all my feedback and stuff. So, and that is like $2,800. I don't usually do 1-to-1 for less than 5K. So it's like a really good deal. So anyway, in that, okay, like what I'm going to do is each piece that I taught you today, like the 5 Ps, I'm going to actually go deeper into the strategy of how to do it and then have an action step and walk you through, this is how you do XYZ. And so if you're in the 1-to-1, you'll get feedback on that. If you're not in the 1-to-1, if you're in the core, which is I think $1,200 paid in full or 3 payments of $495. So it's really, really affordable. Then you can get feedback on it's 5 2-hour coaching group coaching calls. So you can get and it's not teaching, it's just 2 hours of you asking me questions. You can come on, you don't have to stay the whole time. You can just come ask your question and go, whatever. So there will be like, I'll go deeper into like showing you a formula to figure out your price, right? I mean, all the stuff that I couldn't pack into 90 minutes, right? There will be lessons that go deep into that. And I'll show you exactly like, this is how I pick my price. Here's the math, or this is how I do this, or this is how I do that. So it will be all of this, but a lot deeper. And then same thing with if you were in the captivating content, all that stuff that I just kind of just fired at you, it will be step by step. Now here's how you put together your profile and let's figure out what to say on it. Here's how to figure out a headline for your profile picture. Here's what not to say, right? So I'll walk you step by step through like much deeper. than what we did in the group and here. But obviously I'm giving you kind of the high level so you can see what you need. So just FYI. Bijals, oh yeah, yes, I do kind of download my brain when I do these things, and then watch the replay, because it does help to see it again. Sometimes you pick up something that you didn't hear the first time. So yes, Elena, give us your question. You can either unmute or type it. I know you're having trouble with your mic earlier.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
Yes, great. I have a question. I was out for a bit of this workshop, so I don't know what I've missed, but I was wondering, since you are the like kind of Facebook guru or whatever, I was wondering, because I'm thinking, because I'm going all in on Swedish people, and all of my courses is in Swedish. But
Yep.
I'm thinking about reaching out some more and do English as well. So would you suggest that I would do like double profiles on Instagram and Facebook?
Oh yeah, that's
should I do
interesting. That is
50-50?
interesting. Yeah, so here's the thing about double profiles, because I see where you're going. Yeah, because the two languages. This is a great question. So in fact, I have someone who's coming into Organic Fire, and we were talking about she had at one point 2 profiles. And so a lot of how many of you guys have done this? I considered doing it, but I didn't at the last minute. But we've all kind of, like, a lot of people have had 2 profiles where they were like, I'll use one for my business and one for my friends, right? A lot of people I know have done that. And she had done that. And when and she was like, but it won't let me friend people. And I was like, get rid of your second profile. I guarantee you won't have a problem. And sure enough, she messaged me the other day. She's like, you were so right. Like, the minute I got rid of my second profile, Facebook stopped giving me these nasty gram, they were sending these messages like, oh, do you really know this person? Don't friend people you don't know. And she was worried that she wouldn't even be able to market on Facebook. So, so I think it is against Facebook's terms of service to have more than one profile. Then again, I see other people who have like their VAs. For example, so Jane Smith might be just a regular Facebook user, but she's a virtual assistant for Big Name Coach Lady. And so Big Name Coach Lady says, Jane, can you make a profile that says Jane Team Coach, whatever her name is, right? And so you see people with that. And so, but it is, and Sarah confirms, it is against their terms of service to have 2. So so I guess my question to you would be, is there a way that you could do a dual language, right? Post the same post each day, one, in your native language, one in English if you're going for the English speaking. I'm not sure. That's something I can definitely research, because I think it's a valid question, because I have never had that question before. So you're challenging me.
Yes, great, thank you. My first thought is people in Sweden are really good at English, so I guess it's not hard for them to understand the language, but also if I would hire someone that also is speaking Swedish, I would maybe prefer to have it in Swedish. Yeah, you can still do the coaching in 2 languages, even though your messaging might turn into English as well.
That's true. That is very true. That's very true. So yeah, well, that's a great question. Now tell me a little bit about what you do.
At the moment, I am teaching pregnancy yoga and mothers to strength train and de-stress, and
Oh, that's so
a pretty broad one. But I'm creating a high-end offer where I am going to go into pelvic problems, like both prolapse, incontinence, and
oh, excellent.
There's a saying here in Sweden that allt ser inte fint ut. it's called like everything looks just fine, that the women hear a lot when they do their exams after giving birth, but they still have problems with, yeah, every type of pelvic problem there is almost.
Are you working with Dagmar Khan?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, you're one of Dagmar's.
Yeah, I'm in.
So,
Yeah, I'm in her one.
I thought, I was like, wait, I think I know. Okay, yeah. Okay, so you were on the call the other night that I did, right?
Yeah.
I thought.
No, I'm not in the group, the course that you're teaching.
Okay. But you know who you're working. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, she has a bunch of different programs, etc. Okay, excellent. Well, you couldn't have a better teacher in that area. So, and it's so needed.
Yes.
So that's great. Good. All right, cool. So anyone else? Who else has any questions? I know some of you may have to go. It's the 90 minutes is up, but I will stay on as long as people do have questions. So you tell me. Y'all good? Y'all good? Everybody good? Oh, and Sarah just said if you have a different email, that is key. You can't use the same email as your first profile. Okay. That makes sense. All right. Yeah, thanks. Good. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you so much for coming live today. It's always so much more fun with a live group. I will, this replay, I will try to get emailed out. If you're on the email list, if you're here, you're on the email list. So you'll get the replay. I'll put that up for probably just on YouTube and whatnot, but I'll send you the link to it and watch it, get what you can out of it. And if you are interested in coming into Organic Funnel Fire, go check it out, jennyobi.com/fire. I probably ought to put the link on here. I'm terrible at that. And then let me know, and I will, I'm taking 4 people only in the one-to-one, just because I don't want to overcommit. Like, it's a lot of one-to-one. And I want to give those folks, as much time as possible. If you're coming into the core, I'm only taking 12 because I don't want a huge group in there. I want to, again, give you plenty of one-to-one time in the Facebook group and in the coaching calls. So just let me know and I will send you the pay link. The early action bonuses end on Wednesday. So like jump on it if you want that. For the core, it's that you get Loom video feedback. That doesn't happen unless you do the early action bonus. And then for the one-to-one, it's an extra 1-hour coaching call with me. So yeah, very cool. Okay, guys, thanks again. And I will see you over in my new group, hopefully. I'll be shutting down the pop-up group on Friday, but I have the Organic High-End Expert. That's the new group, and I will keep that open year round for you. Okay. So thanks again, everyone. Oh, and you're welcome. Okay, bye.